beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of Energize Your Passion, where we tap into the things that ignite our joy and keep life exciting. I'm your host, Sunshine, and today we're diving into something that will wake up your sense of adventure, the thrill of spontaneous trips. And to be perfectly transparent, I need a spontaneous trip right now because life is lifing. Have you ever felt stuck in a routine, like your days are on repeat? Maybe you've been craving excitement, but just keep putting it off. Well, today's episode is all about embracing those spur-of-the-moment adventures that brings us back to life. Whether it's a surprise road trip, a last-minute flight, or just driving until you find something new, there's something magical about letting go and seeing where life takes you. We hear incredible stories from listeners who took a leap of faith and went on a trip that changed their lives in ways they never expected. And of course, we'll break it all down into segments, each one touching on different aspects of spontaneous travel, from why it's so freeing to how you can do it without stress. So if you've been waiting for a sign to shake things up, this is it. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's jump in. Segment 1, the magic of saying yes. Have you ever had one of those moments where you were just like, why not? And it led to something unforgettable. That's the power of spontaneous trips. It's about stepping outside of your comfort zone and welcoming the unknown. There's an energy in making a split-second decision that can completely change your day or even your life. Think about it. So much of our lives are planned out. Work schedules, appointments, routines. From the moment we wake up, we have a to-do list running in our heads. It's comforting in some ways, but let's be real. It can also feel like we're stuck in an endless cycle of repetition. Wake up, go to work, run errands, stroll on our phone, sleep, repeat. But when was the last time you let go of the plan and just did something because it felt right? We tend to think that excitement only happens when we plan for it, that we need months of preparation, an itinerary, and the perfect conditions. But the truth, some of the best moments in life happen when we throw the plans out the window and just go with it. Maybe it's saying yes to a last minute dinner with friends when you were planning to stay in. Maybe it's taking a different route home just to see where it leads. Or maybe it's packing an overnight bag and hopping in the car with no set destination, just the open road and a sense of adventure. The beauty of spontaneity is that it shifts your perspective, it shakes things up, it reminds you that life is not meant to be lived on autopilot. And that's where I've been lately. Now, let's dive into some real stories from listeners who took that leap of faith and embraced the unexpected. Maria, one of our listeners, shared how she had a stressful week at work and was feeling overwhelmed. Everything felt like too much. Emails, meetings, deadlines. She was mentally drained, and the thought of spending another weekend at home doing the same old thing didn't feel like the break she needed. So, on a whim, she booked a train ticket to a nearby city she had never visited. No itinerary, no hotel reservations, just a ticket and an open mind. She wandered through its streets, stumbled upon a cozy bookstore and ended up making friends with the owner. They talked about books, life, and travel. And before she knew it, she had spent hours just soaking in the moment. That spontaneous decision gave her a fresh perspective and the mental reset she didn't even realize she needed. Imagine if she had talked herself out of it, if she had convinced herself that it was irresponsible or that she should just stay home and rest. She would have missed out on a moment that energized her soul. Then there's James, who was supposed to spend his weekend doing laundry and errands. Boring, right? Boring. But his friends called last minute and asked if he wanted to take a road trip to a beach 3 hours away. His first instinct was to say no. He thought about the laundry piling up, the groceries he needed to buy, the to-do list waiting for him. But then something inside of him said, why not? And that was it. He packed a bag in 5 minutes, hopped into the car, and let the adventure unfold. That trip turned into one of the best weekends of his life, full of laughter, bonfire stories, ocean waves, and a reminder that life's best moments aren't always planned. Think about that for a second. What if James had stuck to his to-do list? What if he had let the weight of responsibilities stop him from choosing joy? This is what I want you to take from these stories. You don't have to wait for the perfect time to do something spontaneous because the perfect time is right now. And I get it. Sometimes it's easy to overthink it. You start running through all the what ifs. What if something goes wrong? What if I regret it? What if I should be doing something more responsible? But let me ask you this. What if it turns out to be amazing? What if you create a memory that stays with you forever? What if saying yes leads to something that changes your life? I challenge you to think back on a time in your life when you said yes to something unexpected. Maybe it was an impromptu meetup with a friend that turned into an all-night conversation. Maybe it was taking a detour on a trip and stumbling upon the most beautiful view you've ever seen. Maybe it was choosing adventure over routine, even just for one day. How did it make you feel? Did you regret it? Or did it add something special to your life? Because here's the things. Spontaneous trips don't have to be big or extravagant. They don't have to mean dropping everything and booking a plane ticket across the world. Though, hey, if that's your vibe, go for it. Sometimes spontaneity is as simple as taking a different route home, walking into a new cafe, or saying yes to something unexpected. It's about breaking free from the ordinary, even just for a little while. It's about reminding yourself that life is meant to be lived, not just managed. So here's your challenge. The next time you get the chance to say yes to something spontaneous, do it. Don't think about it, just do it. See where it takes you. Maybe it leads to a new favorite place, a new friend, or just a new appreciation for the moment you're in. And if you do, I want to hear about it. Yes, I'm nosy. I want to hear about it. Message me, share your stories, and let's celebrate the magic of saying yes. Up next, we'll talk about how spontaneous trips can actually be stress-free and easy despite what you might think. So stay tuned. Segment 2. Ditch the stress. Embrace the adventure. One of the biggest things that hold people back from spontaneous trips is the fear of the unknown. Where will I stay? What if I don't pack the right things? What if something goes wrong? But here's the thing, sometimes not having a plan is the best plan. We live in a world where everything is scheduled down to the minute: meetings, appointments, alarms, reminders. Our daily lives are designed around structure. And while structure can be helpful, it can also be exhausting. The idea of traveling without a plan can feel a little intimidating at first because we're so used to thinking ahead. But what if we flip that mindset? What if, instead of seeing the unknown as stressful, we saw it as exciting? Maybe the truth is, most of the stress we associate with travel comes from overplanning. Think about the last time you went on a big trip. You probably spent weeks, if not months, researching flights, booking accommodations, planning activities, making reservations. And while planning can be fun, it can also feel like work. Sometimes, by the time we actually get to the trip, we're so caught up in the details that we forget to just enjoy the experience. Now, imagine stripping all that away. Imagine waking up one morning, deciding to go somewhere new, and just going. No itinerary, no expectations, just pure in the moment adventure. Sounds freeing, right? That's exactly what happened with Samantha, one of our listeners, and I love her story. Samantha told us she once booked a same day flight to a random city because she found a cheap flight. That's right, no pre planned vacation, no checklist, just a split second decision to pack a bag and go. She had no hotel booked, no itinerary, just a backpack and a sense of adventure. She figured, I'll figure it out when I get there. And that's exactly what she did. When she landed, she started walking around the city, just letting her curiosity guide her. She ended up stumbling upon a charming little bed and breakfast that had a last minute cancellation. Wow. Coincidental? Hmm. So she grabbed the room. That night, she met some amazing locals who told her about hidden gems in the city, places she would have never found in a travel guide. The best part, she felt free. No schedule to follow, no pressure to do it all. She just went with the flow. And because of that, she had one of the most magical weekends of her life. Now, let's be honest. Most of us aren't used to this kind of freedom. We've been taught that traveling requires preparation. And sure, in some cases that's true. But there's also something to be said about trusting the journey. A lot of the fear we have around spontaneous trips comes from this ideal that we have to be in control. But when you let go of that need for control, you open yourself up to possibilities you never would have planned for. And then there's Alex, who took an impromptu camping trip with a friend. They had no real plan, just a general idea of where they wanted to go. They packed a few things, hopped in the car, and set off. Of course, being last minute, they forgot to pack half the things they needed. No flashlight, no extra blankets, not enough food. At first, they panicked. How were they going to make this work? But instead of stressing, they got creative. They built a fire from scratch, made makeshift lanterns, and even cooked up a surprisingly delicious meal with what little they had. And you know what? You know what? They had the best time. The trip wasn't perfect, But that's what made it fun. They laughed at their mistakes, bonded over problem solving, and made memories they'll never forget. That's the key. Go with the flow. Things might not go as planned, but that's the point. Let's be real. When we look back at the best experiences of our lives, they're rarely the ones that went perfectly. They're the moments when things went sideways, when we had to figure things out on the fly, when we embraced the unexpected. That's where the magic happens. So, if the ideal of taking a spontaneous trip stresses you out, I want to challenge that thought. What if, instead of thinking, what if something goes wrong, you flipped it to, what if something amazing happens? What if I discover something I never expected? What if this turns out to be the best adventure of my life? Because here's the secret, most things do work out. Worried about where you stay? There are countless apps that can help you find last minute lodging. Didn't pack something? You can always buy it on the way. Afraid of getting lost? That's half the fun. The stress we think we'll have is usually way worse in our heads than in reality. And more often than not, the best moments come from the things we didn't plan. So the next time you feel the pull to do something spontaneous, lean into it. Say yes. Take the trip. Trust that things will fall into place because they always do. Coming up, we'll talk about how spontaneous trips help you grow as a person. So don't go anywhere. Segment 3, Growth Through the Unexpected. Spontaneous trips aren't just about fun. They teach us things about ourselves. They push us beyond our comfort zones and help us discover strengths we didn't know we had. Think about the last time you stepped in an unfamiliar situation. Maybe it was a new job, a move to a different city, or even just trying something for the first time. There's always that initial discomfort, right? That little voice in your head asking, what if this goes wrong? But then, once you push through it, something amazing happens. You realize you're capable. You adapt, you grow. Now apply that same ideal to travel. When you take a spontaneous trip, you're stepping into the unknown. You're letting go of the safety net of a planned itinerary. And that, in itself, is an exercise in personal growth. It teaches resilience, adaptability, and confidence. Because let's be honest, when everything is planned out for us, we don't have to think as much. But when we're navigating unfamiliar places, making last minute decisions, and problem solving on the go, we discover a whole new side of ourselves. That's exactly what happened to Lisa. Lisa shared how she had always been a planner. She thrived on structure, loved having every detail mapped out, and found comfort in knowing exactly what was coming next. So when she had to cancel a well planned vacation, one she had spent months preparing for, she felt completely thrown off. At first, she was devastated. All that planning, all those expectations, gone in an instant. But instead of sulking, she decided to take a leap of faith on a whim. She packed a bag, got in her car, and drove to a place she had never even considered before. And you know what? That trip ended up being one of the best experiences of her life. She found herself wandering without a schedule, discovering hidden cafes, meeting interesting people, and experiencing a kind of freedom she had never allowed herself before. And through that experience, she realized something important. She could handle change. She could let it go. And sometimes the unplanned moments turn out to be the most special ones. Now imagine if Lisa had let her disappointment stop her from taking that trip. Imagine if she had said, "Well, since my plans fell through, I guess I'll just stay home." She would have missed out on a powerful lesson about flexibility and self trust. How many times in our lives do we let one setback convince us that we shouldn't try at all? Growth happens in the space between the expected and the unknown. And that brings us to David. David had always been afraid of traveling alone. The ideal of being in a new place, figuring things out by himself, and not having anyone to lean on made him incredibly anxious. So, for years, he avoided it. He convinced himself he just wasn't that kind of person. But one day, something in him shifted. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was frustration with always holding himself back. Or maybe he just woke up and thought, enough is enough. So he booked a solo trip. At first, it was terrifying. Every small decision, where to eat, how to get around, even just sitting alone at a cafe, felt overwhelming. But as the days went on, something incredible happened. He started trusting himself more. He asked strangers for recommendation, navigated unfamiliar streets, and found joy in his own company. And by the time he returned home, he was a completely different person. Not only did he gain confidence in traveling alone, but he also realized he was capable of so much more than he ever gave himself credit for. How often do we hold ourselves back because of fear, because of doubt, because we've convinced ourselves that something is too hard, too scary, or just not for us? The truth is, growth doesn't happen when things are easy. Growth happens when we step outside of what's comfortable and challenge ourselves in new ways. Spontaneous trips do exactly that. They force us to be resourceful, to adapt to unexpected situations, and to trust in our own ability to figure things out. Here's the best part. Once you prove to yourself that you can handle the unknown, that confidence doesn't just stay in the realm of travel, it spills into other areas of your life. Maybe you'll find yourself more willing to take risks in your career. Maybe you'll finally sign up for that class you've been nervous about. Maybe you'll say yes to experiences you would have talked yourself out of before. Because that's what happens when we embrace the unexpected. We start to realize that we are so much more capable than we ever imagined. So if you're someone who struggles with control, who feels uneasy about uncertainty, or who has been waiting for the perfect moment to do something new, this is your sign. Take the leap. Go on the trip. See what happens when you step outside your comfort zone. You might just discover a version of yourself you never knew existed. Next, we'll talk about how spontaneous travel creates deeper connections with yourself and others. Stay tuned. Segment 4, Connection Through Shared Adventures. Spontaneous trips have a way of bringing people closer, whether it's making a new friend on the road or strengthening bonds with those you travel with. These moments create lifelong memories. There's something special about stepping into the unknown with someone else. It removes distraction and gives you the chance to experience things together in a way that planned trips don't always allow. When everything is mapped out ahead of time, we tend to go through the motions, following the itinerary and sticking to a schedule. But when a trip is spontaneous, you're both figuring things out as you go, relying on each other, and embracing the adventure together. And that kind of shared experience creates deep connections. Think about it. Some of the best stories you share with friends and family probably come from the unexpected moments, right? The road trips where you got lost but ended up finding the best little diner. The last minute getaways where you had to make do with what you had and ended up laughing for hours. The adventures that weren't polished or perfect but ended up meaning the most. That's because connection isn't built in the carefully planned moments. It's built in the unfiltered, real, and sometimes messy experiences. And that brings us to Emily's story. Emma met her best friend because they both decided last minute to go on a weekend hiking retreat. Neither of them had planned to go ordinarily. Emma had been hesitant because she didn't think she had the time, and her future best friend Sarah almost didn't go because she didn't want to go alone. But at the last minute, they both made the decision to say yes. And that one decision changed their lives. The first night of the retreat, they ended up being paired together for a group activity. They spent the next 2 days hiking, sharing stories and pushing through challenges and laughing until their stomachs hurt. By the end of the weekend, they knew they had found something special, a connection that might never ever have happened if they had let hesitation hold them back. Now, years later, they still take spontaneous trips together, always making room for a little adventure in their lives. Imagine if one of them had said no. Imagine if they had let their fears, the fear of going alone, fear of not having enough time, keeping them from showing up. They never would have met, never would have shared that experience, and never would have built the deep friendship they have now. How many times in our lives do we miss out on connections because we hesitate? Because we convince ourselves that something is too inconvenient, too uncertain, and just not the right time. But here's the thing. When it comes to meaningful connection, timing isn't something you can always control. Sometimes the best relationships, friendships, and moments of deep understanding come from the most unexpected places. That's why spontaneous trips can be so powerful. They open the door to meeting people you never would have met otherwise. And sometimes they help us reconnect with the people we've started to drift away from. Then there's Carlos, who went on a spontaneous trip with his sister. They had drifted apart over the years, not because of anything dramatic, but because life had simply gotten in the way. Work, responsibilities, different schedules. They talked now and then, but they weren't as close as they had once been. Then one weekend, Carlos's sister called him up and said, "Let's get away, just the two of us." At first, he hesitated. He had things to do. Work had been stressful, but then he thought, why not? And so they packed up the car and drove. That weekend, filled with laughter, deep conversations, and new experiences, reminded them of how much they meant to each other. Without the distraction of daily life pulling them in different directions, they had the space to reconnect. And when they got back home, they promised not to let So much time passed again. This is the power of shared adventure. It brings people closer. Sometimes we get so caught up in our routines that we forget to make time for connection. We assume that the people we love will always be there, that we can always catch up later, that we'll reconnect when life slows down. But life doesn't always slow down on its own. Sometimes we have to choose to pause and make the space for the people who matter. Spontaneous trips give us that space. They pull us away from the everyday noise and allow us to be fully present with ourselves, with the world, and with the people we're experiencing it with. And you know what? You don't have to wait for some grand adventure to make that happen. It doesn't have to be a big, expensive trip or something elaborate. It can be as simple as calling up a friend and saying, "Let's go somewhere this weekend." Maybe it's a day trip to a nearby city. Maybe it's a hike, a beach day, or a road trip with no set destination. The where doesn't matter as much as the experience, because the experience is what creates the bond. So, if there's someone in your life you've been meaning to reconnect with, someone you haven't spent enough time with lately, or even if you just want to open yourself up to meeting new people, consider taking a spontaneous trip. Say yes to adventure. Say yes to connection. You never know who you'll meet or what memories you'll create. And in our final segment, we'll wrap it all up with key takeaways, so don't go anywhere. Segment 5, Embracing the Adventure Mindset. So what have we learned? 1. Saying yes to spontaneous trips open the door to unforgettable experiences. Number 2, ditch it. The stress of overplanning make travel more fun and freeing. Number 3, unexpected adventures help us grow in ways we never imagined. Number 4, shared experiences create deeper bonds with ourselves and others. But here's the real question. What will you do with this? Because listening is one thing, but living is something else entirely. Inspiration is great, but action is where the magic happens. And the best part, it doesn't have to be a grand, life-altering trip across the world. Spontaneity isn't about how far you go. It's about your mindset. It's about breaking the routine, opening yourself up to possibility, and choosing adventure over hesitation. So I challenge you to say yes to something spontaneous this week. It could be as simple as taking a short drive to a new town just to see where the road takes you. Walking into a coffee shop you have never tried before and striking up a conversation with someone new. Taking a different route on your daily walk just to experience a change of scenery. Saying yes to an invite you would normally turn down. Who knows what connections you might make? The smallest shift can spark something incredible. And when you do, I want to hear about it. As you know, I'm nosy. Tell me your stories. Message me, tag me, or send an email. Let's celebrate the magic of saying yes together. And if this episode inspired you, as I really hope it did, because it has inspired me to pack my bag, don't keep it to yourself. Rate this podcast 5 stars. It helps us. It helps the community. Share it with a friend who needs a little adventure in their life. And let's build a community of people who choose passion, joy, and spontaneity. Until next time, go out, explore, and keep that passion alive. Stay radiant. This is Sunshine, signing off.